Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And this morning we got a pretty extensive update from Verizon. They tied it in with the earnings call. It was about an hour and a half. It was a webcast on YouTube. So I have some additional updates for you guys throughout this video. So make sure you guys stay tuned for the entire video. There's a lot of updates. At the end, there will be another network update. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that in this video. So what you're seeing on screen currently is the strategic focus that Verizon's team, senior executive team, have been working on throughout all these years. 2018 through 2020, build the foundation. 2021 through 2024, strengthen the assets, and then 2025 and plus, and beyond, extend industry leadership. So building the foundation, that's when Hans Vestberg really took over. They started implementing Verizon 2.0, and they were working through that. And they're still working through that today, but that's when the millimeter wave deployment started. And I want to say, even if Verizon had C-band back then as well, they would have still deployed millimeter wave. So I don't think that's an excuse to use anymore that, oh, that's the only spectrum Verizon had, so they had to build that out. No, they would have still built out millimeter wave even if they had C-band back then. Maybe not as aggressive, but they would have still built that out because it's part of their core strategy. And we'll get to that later in the video. 2021 through 24, I mean, clearly you can see strengthening the assets. C-band that they've purchased, deploying CBRS, that's part of strengthening the assets. Although they didn't buy most of the licenses there, but they're still using it. So it's strengthening the asset. And then the U.S. Cellular purchase, they also discussed that briefly. They don't expect that to materialize until 2026. So that's interesting. That's part of strengthening the assets. Also, Frontier, that purchase is also strengthening the assets. And then One Fiber build and continuing to accelerate that. That's fiber to the cell. That's also part of strengthening the assets. So they've been doing that for the last 3 years, and they will continue to do that 2025 and beyond as well. And then extend industry leadership. I mean, they're moving in a similar direction as T-Mobile as it pertains to the network side, but Verizon is further along in every aspect of it, like generators, building the reliability, redundancy. Verizon is just much, much, much further along in that. So it's really like T-Mobile wanting to be and become Verizon when Verizon's already there. So Verizon is in no rush to catch up to any of the capabilities that T-Mobile can do today. That's one thing that Joe Russo made very clear during his part of the presentation. They are in no rush to catch up to discuss the largest and biggest network, right? They have no desire to do that. And maybe there's, if they started first, maybe they would be claiming that story. But right now they're moving along quite fine, and they're implementing other stuff that they feel would get them to leadership and extend the leadership. So let's move on to the next slide. So the 2024 strategic, the strategic portion, and to extend the industry leadership, these are the pillars that are a part of that. Customer first offerings, refreshed brand, which they're still working through that. It's going to take a long time to really get that refreshed. Planned Frontier acquisition, like I said, that's strengthening the asset. Tower transaction, right? They recently sold off some towers to a Vertical Bridge. That's going to give them cash in hand. Agreed to acquire U.S. Cellular spectrum. I think that was not disclosed publicly, but I think behind the scenes, that's probably what the FCC told T-Mobile and U.S. Cellular. Hey, if you want this deal to go through, you're going to have to sell off those other assets to the other players, so we can have everyone getting a piece of the pie. So that Verizon agreed to that, and then enabling the AI ecosystem. That's another big thing that's going to help customer service and hopefully make that better. I know that's kind of been a pain for a lot of people dealing with Verizon customer service. I had to deal with that a few years ago, and that's also part of the reason why they are no longer my main carrier. Just it was just ridiculous. It was a small issue that took 3 hours and another call back the next day. And it didn't get resolved. It's just a pain to deal with Verizon customer service, and they have recently acknowledged that they have very poor customer service. So it's not something that we're making up or just rambling on about. It's really a thing. So it's good that Verizon acknowledged that. Let's move on here to the next slide. So this is an interesting one as well, right? Consumer plus business, unmatched scale and differentiated value proposition. So on the mobility side, and mind you, before we continue, all of this new capacity that they're generating for FWA and the increase in the guidance, it's all still a mobile first approach. So I wanted to point that out. So America's Best Wireless Network, satellite partnerships, they have several now. They have AST and then another one, I forgot the name of the company. They have 144.7 million total connections. So they still want to enjoy that leadership portion. And then My Plan Bus plus B2B. Another very important part of Verizon's positive momentum. They grew today. Today they announced they had positive growth on consumer, 81,000. Not a huge amount, but it's positive momentum. That's why I put that in the title. They are enjoying positive momentum off of all the key strategies that they've implemented. On the broadband side, Fios leads industry in net promoter scores, 18 million Fios plus 60 million FWA premises covered today. That's going to, of course, extend as the Frontier deal closes. 11.9 million total connections there, My Home plus B2B. So My Plan and My Home, that's the core strategy there and the go-to market for the consumer. So you guys can see that now. Quite extensive, and the scale is really unmatched. So this is growing the broadband passing to 40 million over time. That includes organic build. So today, right, up on closing the deal, Verizon, including Frontier, they would cover 25 million passings. They expect that to get to 30 million plus by 2028, and then 35 to 40 million in the future. And a lot of that would be Verizon organically building out a certain amount of fiber passings annually. So they're going to continue to invest into the broadband space even after the Frontier deal closes. So there's a period where they have an integration, which will probably take about a year and a half. And then beyond that, they will continue to contract out and build organically. They like the owner's economics. So for me, this solidifies, at least for now, they have no plans of going with the leased model that Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile are going with. At least for now, this is what that signals. They're going to be very focused and involved in this organic build to get to 40 million homes, which would put them right very close to what AT&T is doing organically with their native fiber build. But AT&T, of course, is going to extend those fiber passings with BlackRock and all the other deals that they recently announced. So this is a good one. And then for those of you who stuck around to the end of the video, here are some further updates on the building network for consumer and business growth. As I mentioned, it's a mobile first approach. They are going to accelerate the ultra wideband deployments. So that not signaling an increase in CapEx, but that likely means they're going to carve out more of the CapEx for the rest of this year and next year to accelerate the C-band deployment. So by the end of this year, 70% of all planned sites should be completed. And by the end of next year, they want to get to 90% of all planned sites completed with C-band. So that's impressive. I got to say, that's impressive. That gets them right around where T-Mobile is, floating around today with mid-band. So not much of a huge lead anymore for T-Mobile. FWA solutions for multi-dwelling units are starting to be deployed next year. I think I mentioned that in the video earlier. That's going to be a big deal. That's 1 gig of broadband speeds that they're going to be able to offer, which is quite competitive with today. 100% virtualized 5G core. That's a massive undertaking, right? That's something that T-Mobile is bragging about. Verizon is doing that too. So not really a leadership for T-Mobile anymore. And then vRAN at scale. 40% of C-band sites today are on vRAN. That was announced during Joe Russo's presentation. And I think that's very impressive. T-Mobile is talking about AI RAN in the future. vRAN is a part of that. So Verizon is already working towards that. And whenever AI RAN becomes a thing, Verizon will be ready to do that as well if they choose to implement. So Verizon Intelligence Edge Network, One Fiber, Edge Compute, Verizon Cloud Platform, Converged IP Core. So Verizon is ready today for any of the real-time Apple Intelligence, Gemini, everything else that's coming. Verizon is ready for that computing today. Can they further extend and get better around that? Of course. If AI RAN is really that big of a deal, Verizon will implement. Verizon may already be doing some stuff behind the scenes. T-Mobile stated yesterday in a presentation their NVIDIA partnership is not exclusive. So T-Mobile's not the only one that's going to do work around that. So today, I would say with the intelligent edge network at the edge, Verizon today is better prepared than AT&T and T-Mobile, in my opinion. T-Mobile will need AI RAN to really become intelligent at the edge network. I don't really know what T-Mobile is doing at the edge today as it stands. I know they do with they have a partnership with the cloud with Azure, Microsoft Azure. But other than that, I don't know if they're doing intelligent edge networking or not. But we know for a fact Verizon is doing that. And then Fios Access Networks expected to annually build 650,000 passings. Post-close, 1 million plus. So again, that's acceleration. That means additional funding. Technology advancements enable targeted edge-out builds, mobility and broadband, enabling attractive fiber returns. So the interesting part here is leader in mobility and broadband with owners economics. So they want to really take that owners economics to the next level. So you can see here on the left, 270 million pops covered with C-band today. They want to take that to 300 million plus over time. I would say it's going to take them another 12 to 18 months to get the 300 million covered. And then on the right, you can see 90 million homes covered with FWA. They want to get to 8 to 9 million by 2028. 35 to 40 million fiber passings, as we discussed. 100 million homes and businesses covered over time with either FWA or fiber. That's a big deal. That brings new competition and tons of revenue opportunity for Verizon. So they're talking about FWA generating $2 billion in revenue for them this year. Just imagine what they can do when they get to 90 million covered with FWA. I mean, it's going to generate tons of revenue. So another interesting part that I want to point out, the 4 to 5 million that Verizon got to about 15 months ahead, Joe Russo stated, the network team was always building with more capacity in mind. So even before getting to 4 to 5 million, they knew they had capacity to get more customers. And right now, he stated they're building out capacity infrastructure that's already pushing more capacity back into the network beyond 8 to 9 million. So they're already letting us know indirectly they're going to guide in 2028 to grow beyond 8 to 9 million. That's what they're telling us indirectly. So they're moving at an incredible pace. While they're going back to the sites, they're already including vRAN and modernizing the basebands. They have been ripping. Remember, Verizon was also ripping from Nokia to Samsung, so they're more modern and from that aspect as well. So it's going to be very interesting to really see all of this Verizon stuff come together. It took a while, but I feel the team that they have in place now, they're providing positive results. So I can't really go against that, right? The churn rate is a little high, so I'm a little skeptic on that. But it's there, right? They're making pricing moves, so that's probably why the consumer is getting sick and tired of that. But they're doing it. They're doing it, right? They grew positive on the consumer. They grow positive every quarter on business, so no complaints there. Churn's a little high, but the network is there. They're scaling it as quickly as they can, and in the future, they're going to be they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough to beat once this all comes together. The millimeter wave, the intelligent edge network, the C-band getting the 300 million pops, and then moving that all to the SA core and slicing, which they discussed. They plan on discussing later this year what their planned use cases are for that. So it's going to get interesting. It's going to get very competitive, and I like it. It's going to make T-Mobile have to move differently. It's going to make AT&T have to step it up. So that's from that aspect. I really like that Verizon is pushing the envelope. The annual capex is expected to remain at 17.5 to 18.5 billion annually. That's a lot of money. That gives them a lot of flexibility. Although I anticipate once the Frontier deal closes, they will annually spend a bit more on fiber, and they're telling us that by the post-close passings. To go from 650,000 to a million plus, you have to spend more money. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So let me know your thoughts on the comments. Like I said, I maintained throughout all of the T-Mobile doing that Verizon would have the best network at the end of it. And they're working towards a lot of that stuff now. It's already implemented, 270 million pops. I mean, they have most areas now covered with C-band. You go 270 and beyond, I mean, you're getting to areas that are far and few in between, low population sizes. So most of metros, the top 100 markets, they should be adequately covered with C-band. There might be some sites here and there that don't have it, but Verizon should be getting to those sites this year and next year. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Live. See y'all in the next one. Peace.